Hello and welcome to episode 350, I think, of Sutton and Back Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. And let's start off with the college football playoff.
Yeah.
So we've got Michigan, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I have a hard time being unbiased because I hate everything about Michigan.
Of
So
course.
I'm going to root for Washington. But Michigan is a really, really good team.
And they're very deep.
And they've been through a lot, and they really have gelled. Were they 4.5-point favorites, I think?
Yeah. I mean, like you said,
I was thinking Washington was really had a shot till I saw the game film of the Arizona State game where Washington did not score an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the strategy that Michigan does, is try and go up the middle and disrupt everything. So Penix is going to have to be on the move, rolling out, getting away from the middle. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, this is the best Michigan football team Jim Harbaugh's ever had, I think, as far as talent on both sides of the ball.
I agree.
And, they can put up points on offense, so they can score with Washington, because Washington's not going to stop you. And I think Michigan's defense, their secondary is really good. And, like you said, I'm rooting for Washington. I think everybody probably outside of the Wolverine fans is rooting for Michigan or rooting for Washington, but I wouldn't bet on them.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch the game, though.
I am too. So since I'm going to pick Michigan, that means Washington will win.
I mean, that's
the way
the hope,
my picks
right?
have gone.
Yeah. That is the hope.
It's the hope. Well, I'm going to go let you get your Steeler minute in early.
Okay.
Because it's been, I have loved life with Mason Rudolph winning the last 3 games.
Well, I guess as a permanent Mason Rudolph trasher on this podcast for, 5 years now, I guess I have to apologize to Mason Rudolph. These last 3 games has been the best quarterback Steeler play since primetime Big Ben, right?
Yeah, I'd say.
Numbers-wise, wins-wise. He completed 90% of his passes in the slop yesterday. The team has rallied around him. He doesn't look scared. He hangs in the pocket. And as we talked off air, like, if they need to convince him, depending on what happens in the draft, and I guess free agency is before the draft anyway, that he has a chance to be the starter next year. They're not just going to hand the ball to Pickett, who I think is a sunk cost, and they need to just, let him ride out as a backup. And if somebody would want him, I'd let him go, because I don't think he has it.
I agree. I don't think he's all that. I don't think he's a player. I think he's a starter.
Yeah, I think when you look at
I don't think he's as good as Gardner Minshew.
No, I would put him in a category of Artie Burns, Devin Bush, and Ziggy Hood. Just first round picks that seemed like a good idea at the time that just aren't very good.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Well, I had a fun week because I posted my Mason Rudolph watch cap that I bought for $1.
I saw
3 years ago. And everybody's saying, "Oh man, where can I get one?" I go, "I don't know. I bought it 3 years ago for $1, so I don't think there'd be any of them left."
Yeah. My other Steeler thought is, I know people are like, well, if they didn't start Trubisky, but I think back to the Cleveland Browns game where they scored 2 defensive touchdowns to barely win. And that Ravens game where the Ravens dropped 7 passes, including at least 2 actual touchdowns and 2 more where they were behind the defense. And not that those aren't wins, they won the game. But I mean, I feel like they're a 10-win team.
Yeah, I think they're a 10-win team.
Like, yes, obviously Trubisky is garbage and trash, and they probably would have won those games, but they won a couple games that were a little bit So I feel like they evened out.
What I point to, though, is who had the best record in the AFC North?
The Steelers.
5-1.
Yeah.
And that's hard to believe.
It's very hard to believe.
I never saw that coming.
And the fact that they are very likely to miss the playoffs, despite that.
5-1.
Yeah.
In arguably one of the toughest divisions. It could have, if the Steelers might get in, that's 3 playoff teams, and they were 5-1 in that division.
Yeah, but as I pointed out, I mean, they played the Bengals without Burrow, the Browns, surprisingly, without our local hero, Joe Flacco, right?
Yeah.
And then they played the Ravens once with Huntley, and then once where, like I said, they dropped 7 passes. 2 were in the end zone, and 2 more probably would have been touchdowns, and then they would have lost that game. So
yeah, but they've won 7 out of 8 in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And he's got a winning record against the Ravens.
No doubt.
So, I mean, say what you want. I mean, he knows how to play the Ravens, just like certain teams like the Bills know how to play the Dolphins. That's why I've got no hope for the Steelers. I think the Bills win. Miami sits a few people. I don't see Jacksonville going into Tennessee and losing, so I don't think the Steelers get in.
No.
And that's fine. Like we talked about, it's fine.
Yeah,
I said,
especially
end on a high note. You won 3 in a row. You might have found your quarterback for the future, for at least the short-term future.
yeah.
Let it go. Don't worry about it.
Like I said, if they draft a guy or bring somebody in, at least we know what we've seen from Mason over 3 games is that's a very competent quarterback that can run this offense. And most importantly, like, if you watch Steelers football all year, when he was named the starter, there was a different energy to that team. And I think that says a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because we've seen over the
And they
years,
ran and passed.
when you feel like you can't win because you don't have faith in your quarterback, like, you play a little differently. And once Mason came in, it was like a fire was lit under this team. And Orlovsky pointed out some really cool things about because he waits for the play to develop downfield, that if he has to go, dump it off to a back or a tight end, it's not 11 defenders all within 10 yards. They're spread out throughout the field, so now that play could be something. And, he gives his receivers a chance. And great ball. I mean, again, I apologize to Mason Rudolph because he made it.
And as we talked offline, let's give Dan Orlovsky really is good at what he does. And like you said, and I'm with Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark are like 2 of my favorite commentators.
Yes.
And they both, you can tell they both really want to do what they do. They really prepare. They're really vested in what they do. They're just not talking head. They're really good.
Yeah.
Unlike AJ Hawk,
Oh.
who I'm still trying to figure out what his role is besides being his buddy.
Oh, one more Steeler moment. I think, TJ Watt got 2 sacks before he sprained his MCL yesterday, so hopefully that gives him the league, which would be, he would now hold the record for most years leading the league in sacks.
And he and his brother would be the only people in the first 7 years to have 319 or more, or 219 or more.
I think it's 319 or more, yeah.
Yeah, impressive.
Yeah, because it's hard to imagine Trey Hendricks is going to get more than 2 sacks today, or the other guy was 17. You never know, but I'm hoping.
Well, let's talk about a couple of the games that are on today that are going to determine playoff seeding.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Eagles and the Giants. Tommy Cutler is kind of faded now.
Yeah, he had his Jeremy Lin moment. He's back to earth.
So I guess I'm going to go. The Eagles have not played well, but I'm going to pick the Eagles to go ahead and win with a lot of things on the line, winning the division and making sure Dallas is a wild card team. Yeah.
Eagles have not, for a team that, looked like they were a Super Bowl favorite and we're looking at that defensive line. I heard some interesting commentary, though, about all the Georgia guys. Is that, whether you're talking about all their defensive linemen, that at Georgia, you're only playing 15, 20 snaps a game. And that's not what you're doing in Philadelphia, right?
No.
So you can be a star, you can tear it up for 15, 20 plays, become a first-round pick, but we need you to hold out for an entire 17-game season against NFL competition playing, 35 snaps a game. And that those guys just don't. Jordan Davis and the kid they drafted this past year that fell to them, they just don't have it.
Yeah. So that's one game. Buffalo, Miami. I'm going to take Buffalo because I think Miami's going to rest some people.
Yeah, there's less for them. It doesn't really behoove them to.
Miami's in. Baltimore's not necessarily in.
Right.
Where are you on Jacksonville, Tennessee?
It's Mike Vrabel, and I know he wants to win. I think Tennessee might pull it off. I don't really like what Jacksonville's been doing lately. And as we talked about, when we talked a little bit about, potentially 5 first-round picks going in the 5 quarterbacks going in the first 15 picks of this draft. Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like he's special to me. He's good, but, I don't, maybe he can shut me up today like Mason Rudolph did. But at this point, I just see a pretty average quarterback.
Okay, and what about, you with me and Baker beating the Panthers?
Oh, yeah.
And $2 million for Baker in incentives.
And I would like to see Bryce Young play well. I don't like the owner of Carolina, obviously. Nobody does.
No.
But I do like Bryce Young. And I want to see him go out on a high note to end the season. Not a win necessarily, but, 250 and a couple touchdowns, something.
Well, That's a game I'm gonna watch today because I'm kind of curious. I haven't watched him play all year. I've just heard all the noise, so I'm gonna watch that game, see what's up.
Then you got the Bears at Green Bay, the Justin Fields Bowl, right?
Yeah, nothing much to happen.
No, but you got to. I mean, do the Bears win yet another game in Green Bay? Justin Fields is another big day, and then I still think they're going to trade him. And apparently, the price tag for Justin Fields is a second or a third round pick. So, you know,
Yeah,
I just feel like you have a chance to reset with a new quarterback. People seem to like a lot of the quarterbacks this year better than Justin Fields. So,
our debate about who to take one and who to take two kind of resolved itself, didn't it?
I suppose. I suppose it did. I would still take Marvin Harrison first.
No, I mean last year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it resolved real quick because he's in the
He looked
playoffs.
amazing last night.
He's looked amazing. Also, he's the other reason I'll keep bringing Steelers into it because we've been away for a while and you guys probably missed our Steeler talk. But you've never seen that's a first round pick. That's a franchise quarterback, and we've seen none of that from Kenny Pickett.
Well, that was a 2 pick. That wasn't a 7. That wasn't a 17 or 18 pick.
No, but I mean that was that's you're hoping to see that level of
Yeah, you're hoping, but you're not going to get. You're rarely going to get a quarterback that good that low.
yeah. Although
10 or
Aaron
11
Rodgers
maybe,
went that,
but after that you're reaching a little bit. I think
yeah, Aaron Rodgers went lower, but yeah,
that's true. He did, and Brady went a lot lower,
and Lamar,
and Brock Purdy.
and Drew Brees, and Mason
Okay, you
Rudolph.
made your point.
Okay,
So some good games. We'll see what happens.
yeah. I mean,
We're talking about Giannis.
well, who do you?
Giannis might be turning into my favorite interview on sports right now.
Oh, he's been mine for about a year now. I love that dude.
Had a great interview the other day about Wemby, and I really liked his interview. But yesterday, when he was upset about they lost, he called out everybody in the organization down to the equipment manager, saying everybody has to be better. And it was the Sports Center guys were going crazy. They were loving it.
Oh yeah. Well, he's a perfect content machine because he says really funny, clever things, very thoughtful things.
Yeah.
He's just a wonderful ambassador for sports and everything else. Like he's, if you're the NBA, you couldn't be more excited. And then, speaking of Wemby, like when Wemby blocked Giannis at the rim and ended up having, 25 and 10 and 5 blocks against Milwaukee, you're even more excited, right?
Yeah, for sure. The pass when he went around, threw the ball off the board and slammed it.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
It's still a bizarre sight to watch that human play, but
Yes, his feet are so quick for somebody that big.
yeah. And it looks like a grown up sometimes playing with first graders on a mini hoop because you're like, you shouldn't be that long and that athletic, but he is.
Yeah. Well, like we talked about offline, you just got to, now you figured out what he plays, how he plays. So now you've got to go shopping and get the right people around him to make the team better.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the other end of the spectrum of teams that look like they're, the 17 and 18 Golden State Warriors right now?
It's like what happened to the Steelers after they won the 4 Super Bowls. They hung on to people too long.
Yeah.
And I just think that's what Golden State did. Not only the difference is that you hung on to people too long is one thing, but when you hang on to people too long and it financially cripples your franchise about what you can and what you can't do, that is much more long-term impactful.
Yeah, and then you've got Kuminga and Moody, who have both been the brunt of a lot of probably negative press in Golden State, right? These guys, they were supposed to step up and be the next generation, and they're both saying, I want out, you haven't used me correctly. And Steve Kerr's obviously a great coach, so I mean, and then you've got the Draymond Green coming back, Chris Paul's back on the injury report. It's a mess. I did see one interesting trade, and that's Golden State gets rid of Draymond and Chris Paul and then send them to the Lakers. Let LeBron reunite with Chris Paul, let him have Draymond, and then, and I think it was like the first round pick of the Lakers, some other fodder, Jordan, and then the little white guy back to Golden State. But Golden State just finally cuts ties with Draymond.
I can see him making a big difference playing with LeBron. Yeah, I can see LeBron keeping him in check.
I mean, because it feels like he's kind of out of control. And like I said, when you watch the last time, I forget who he punched, but the bench's reaction was just like that of a really disappointed parent. It was,
yeah.
And then you take in, the Gobert choke, the Jordan Poole punch. Like, it's just been a lot,
There's been too much.
Too much.
I'd go past a lot. I'd say there's been too much. And that's a concern.
And you're the Lakers. You're the same 17. You're one game worse than the Golden State Warriors, and you're out of the play-in game right now.
Yeah.
And you've had an entire healthy season of LeBron, an entirely healthy season of AD.
And not just a healthy season, but a productive season.
Yeah. I mean, LeBron has been LeBron, phenomenal again. And AD's been, I think, what we've come to expect AD to be, right?
Yeah.
A solid defensive presence, a guy who will occasionally get you 30, but it's probably going to get you 20. And it just is what it is.
Get you 20 and 10 pretty much every night.
Yeah. You expect 30 or 28. You expect him to be in that Giannis, Embiid, Jokic category, and he's just not.
No.
And that's okay. That's just who he is. We got to talk Oklahoma City. 2 games back from the 1 seed in the West. Incredible, right?
Yeah, who would have said Oklahoma City and Minnesota are going to be battling it out for the 1 seed in the West?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw that conversation coming.
No.
Not by any stretch.
And I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a legitimate MVP candidate again this season, and maybe a top 5 player in the league right now. And
yeah.
Chet Holmgren is, I think, better than a lot of people thought he was going to be. Right?
Me included, because I never thought he was that. I didn't think he could move that well.
No, and he's intense. And then I never know, the good Jay Williams is also very, very good. So and again, they have the weird 17 draft picks, although some of them may not come to fruition because they're draft picks that have to happen within a time frame, and they have to fall out of a lottery, and it's a bunch of different parameters. But if there's a guy to go get, I think they need to go get somebody this year. The one interesting thing I saw for Oklahoma City is maybe you call up Cleveland and see if you can get Jared Allen. Had a little more defense. Can occasionally go big with Chet and might help you against some of the bigger teams. I kind of like that trade. So,
if you're Cleveland, why would you do it?
Because you're probably going to lose Donovan Mitchell. You reset with Garland, Mobley, and maybe you get a king's ransom for Jared Allen with Oklahoma City Thunder picks. Because I know they own like Houston picks and Laker picks and some other picks. So maybe you get more than you would normally get for Jared Allen. And Jared Allen Mobley isn't the best combination, I don't think.
Okay, so that's fair.
And again, it looks like Donovan Mitchell does not look like he's long for Cleveland. And then all of a sudden, if it's Garland, Mobley, and Allen. In a Kobe, like you need some more pieces in there. So maybe you take a few more bites of the apple and reset yourself. Okay. That would be my reason if I'm Cleveland. And if you're Cleveland, you're in the 8th seed right now. So it's not like you're, destroying people.
No, you're not tearing it up. You need, the 8th seed's fragile.
And then I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Clippers. They're in 4th place.
Playing really, really well right now.
They're playing very well.
I think 13-2.
Yeah.
Of the last 15 games, plus whatever they did last night.
I mean, they're only 3 games back from the Timberwolves as we speak. So it's pretty impressive. And it seems like Russ has really taken this role of like 15, 20 minutes a game coming off the bench, and he's fine with it.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden is playing well. Kawhi is playing phenomenal.
Paul George is playing really well.
Yeah. And again, for us as giant Russ fans and giant Harden not fans, it's a very difficult team to support. But
yeah,
they are playing phenomenal. So
no, they really are. There's no question.
And then I guess the other big news was the Knicks trade.
Yeah, why don't you explain that to me?
Well, I think R.J. Barrett is just not a great player. I think is the easiest way to put it, right?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He
And as
was
they and they
you
pointed
know, he
out that
looked better than he. You thought he was going to be a lot better than he was.
yeah, and as they pointed out, like if Quigley is on your team, or if Jalen Brunson is your dude, you can't really play Quigley with him. Because I know a lot of people are trying to say Quigley was the best player in that game, and I just don't think it works out as well. Where OG Obanobi, 6'7", 250, he can hit threes better than RJ Barrett. He can guard bigger players. He gives you a little more flexibility, and then all the Knicks gave up was 1 second-round pick besides RJ Barrett and Quigley to get Anunoby. And then I also like Precious. I think he's, you know, another, young 6'8" big dude that can, I think he can ball. I think it was a good trade for them.
Okay.
I still don't know if they're done because they didn't really push all their assets into the thing. And I still feel like they've got a pretty set ceiling. Like you can't imagine them with this current team. But I think the Anunoby made a lot of sense for them, especially what they gave up. I don't know. I liked it.
Okay.
They're a fun squad.
Hey, I got a hockey moment.
Okay.
First of all, sorry that the Blackhawks lose Connor Bedard with a broken jaw for a while.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That's a bummer. But so I'm watching an old episode of Sopranos because Sopranos are on HBO this week, and they're showing all the old episodes of The Sopranos. So I see an episode where AJ is wearing a New Jersey Devils hat. So I reach out to my friends at the Devils and I said, "Hey, because they did that bobblehead of Putty from Seinfeld."
Yeah.
From the Devils episode. I said, "Have you thought about doing an AJ Soprano bobblehead?" And he told me that they are planning a Sopranos themed promotion in February.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he told me though that AJ, I think his name is Eiler, he really is a huge Devils fan, as is Omar from The Wire. They're both huge Devils fans.
Okay.
Is it Omar?
Yeah, Omar. Yeah, Omar coming.
Yeah.
Omar, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting.
Are they gonna do a Wire promo too? Just HBO back in its heyday?
No, they're doing a Sopranos promo.
Okay.
So I'll be curious what that is.
Yeah.
He said he'd send me the details, so I want to get the details. In fact, maybe we'll get him on the show to talk about it. Because that would be a fun show.
I think so, definitely.
Okay.
We've been thinking about Maria has never seen The Sopranos in our house. We've been talking about maybe watching it.
When I'm watching it now, a lot of the stuff that I thought happened in years 4 and 5 actually happened in year 2.
Okay.
Like Janice and Richie Aprile, those are all season 2.
Oh, they have it early, yeah.
Yeah. They were fun to watch. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about is I was watching a fantasy show yesterday, and they were talking about the biggest fantasy busts and the fantasy MVP. Well, and then people would vote on it. So I was very, very. I thought my guy Bijan Robinson was going to be in the top 5 for fantasy busts, but he was not, and I still can't figure that out. But I guess it went on when you drafted people.
Yeah.
And what your expectations are. So, who do you think the number 1 bust in fantasy football was
This year?
Yep.
Is it still Kyle Pitts, or did he get a?
No.
You just give up on him? Okay.
No.
Maybe Joe Burrow on some level.
Nope. Travis Kelce.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Travis Kelce and Austin Eckler were, I think, 1 and 2.
Tony Pollard's got to be in there too.
I don't know, but they were, depends on when you draft them, I guess. But you would have drafted Kelce and Eckler very, very high.
It's true.
And so they didn't produce anywhere near what they produced before. And then I didn't watch to see who the MVP was, but I saw that 2 of the nominations were C.D. Lamb and Christian McCaffrey.
Well,
which I totally agree on.
I learned something today, or this is actually this week, but I just said today for no reason. 47% of the rosters that had Christian McCaffrey made the finals in their fantasy league across all fantasy platforms.
Yeah.
So if you had him on your team, you had a 50% chance of just making the finals it didn't matter who else was on your team. And in our league, the guy that had Christian McCaffrey not only made the finals, but also won it. So congratulations, Fred. I'm very excited for you.
And I had one off week in the last 12, and it was the first round of the playoffs, where my team only scored 80 points. And the next week, my team scored 160 to win third place.
Usually third place, you get your money back, though, which is always like a...
Yeah, I did.
That's like a nice... It didn't
I
cost
got to
me.
thank, and I told you I did the draft. I was trying to do most of it myself, but there was times when I was doing it on an iPad instead of a computer.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get it to do it right, and so I'd get an auto pick.
Ugh.
Well, my auto pick in round 2 was CD Lamb.
Oh, yeah, that helped.
So that worked out pretty good. But my auto pick later on was Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And it was, and I got Travis Burke was another one. I had like 3 or 4 auto picks that I had to get, and I got rid of all those guys, but except for CD Lamb, that turned out to be a great pick.
Yeah, well, as long as we're doing our fantasy moment, I'm excited. My team, The Process, which I have ironically named after the 76ers. In the next 2 seasons, because we do the dynasty, I have 4 first round, 4 second round picks coming up.
And who do you have your sights on?
Well, unfortunately, I did like a Steelers, where I ended up winning a bunch of games down the stretch, even though I tried to tank somehow. So now I'm drafting middle of the first round, so I don't really know. But my fantasy MVP on my particular team, I think, was Jalen Warren, because he got him on free agent wire last year, and I kept him on my team, and he was phenomenal.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to have our draft in person next year. Do you want to come?
Yeah.
It's going to be in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, definitely then.
Okay. It's going to be in Pittsburgh in August.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As long as, yeah. Eat some Fiore's pizza and watch a fantasy draft.
Yeah, we're going to do the fantasy draft. I think we're going to do it at the Riverhound Stadium.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. All right, I'll count on that. We'll do that together. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, you got any food or entertainment?
If you're in the Tahoe, Truckee, Donner area, once again, I talked about it last year, but the Donner Breakfast Cafe is phenomenal. It's one of the better breakfast places I've been to. It's awesome. It's a little out of the way, but it's worth the trip, because there's not a lot of good food in that area. So.
And what was your favorite breakfast item there?
They have really good biscuits and gravy, so.
That's what my guess was going to be.
Well, as I talked to Mom off air, like, I think you get to a certain point if you cook it all in your house. Like, you probably make the best pancakes for you, right?
Yep.
You probably, as long as you buy good ingredients, like, and good eggs, like, you probably make the best eggs. I like my eggs a little runny. Other people like theirs a little more well done, so it's hard for you to compete with my eggs. And, bacon, sausage, like, that's just, it's not a difficult thing to cook. So it's really those specialty things where you're really looking for somebody that, that takes a lot of effort to make. That can you do it better than me? And, that's kind of thing. Because breakfast cooking in general is pretty easy, right?
Well, Mom makes great waffles, and we like her waffles. And I like our eggs. But I like my pancakes. But my pancakes, I always like somebody else's pancakes better than mine.
Okay.
So I've always been able to find really good pancake places. And that's usually how I've singled out, where I wanted to go. Like the pancakes I had at the Red Dog Saloon in New Orleans were really good. They were better than my pancakes.
Oh, and my other food moment is, I wish I could remember the exact place, but there's the main ski place in Tahoe you go to. The super touristy one. There's a French crepe and waffle place that makes homemade waffles. They just hand waffles that are already a little bit sweet. Incredible.
Okay.
And to make matters better, the guy that works there is French. So he's making waffles and crepes, and he's got the thick French accent. And then, you're amongst all the cold and the snow and eating a fresh hot waffle that's got a little bit of sweetness to the batter.
That sounds like a good way to go.
It's very nice. And it pairs well with a cup of hot cocoa. So.
Okay. Entertainment moment. Mom and I watched on Apple TV The Last Thing He Told Me with Jennifer Gardner.
Okay.
7 episodes. It was intriguing. We really enjoyed it.
All right.
I won't say it's one of the greatest things I've ever watched, but it was a good story. It was well told, very well acted.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't think I have any other entertainment. We watch a lot of we've been repeating a lot of, sitcoms and other things along the way, so.
Oh, we watched Barbie.
Okay. Thoughts?
I loved Alan.
Okay.
I thought it had an interesting message. I thought that they told the message well. I think I'd heard so much hype; it was never going to live up to the hype. But it was an enjoyable way to watch a movie.
That's why I've sort of held off watching it because I don't want to resent it for not being anywhere. Like I want the hype to be gone before I actually watch it. And I guess in a almost the opposite of Barbie because we heard such bad things about it, we watched Blue Beetle,
Yeah,
the DC superhero movie on HBO. Pretty
yeah.
decent, you know. It was a superhero movie, you know. So
Well, I'm surprised they still want you to pay $5.99 to watch the last Indiana Jones movie.
oh, it's free on
And I
Disney
could watch
Plus.
Barbie for free.
Oh, I actually did watch the last Indiana Jones movie.
Would you watch it on?
Disney Plus.
Oh, okay. I'll check it out. I've got that. I'll check it out. I was looking on my DirecTV. Okay, sweet. We'll do that. How was it?
It's an Indiana Jones movie. You know, it's better than the one with the Shia LaBeouf and the monkeys. It's not as
Oh
good
yeah,
as
that's hideous.
yeah. It's never going to be as good as the original trilogy.
No.
And I think what we've learned, and I know AI and CGI and all this stuff is getting better. It's hard to de-age somebody that far, you know, and not look a little
Yeah,
bit like a video.
I would think you're right.
Like De Niro in The Irishman. Like, you can make De Niro 15, 20 years younger. You can't make De Niro 50 years younger. Like,
No.
and it's the same thing, like, because Maria thought it was a video game for a few minutes when she saw Harrison Ford's face from the beginning of the movie when it's like a flashback. It still looks really good, but it does look, off enough, I guess.
All right, I'm going to have to watch it. My most pleasant viewing surprise, and I want to say surprise, of the last month was A Christmas Story Christmas.
Okay.
And I thought it was just really, really well done. With the same characters, except for the father and the mother. The father was deceased, but they involved him really well. And the mother was Julie Haggerty from Airplane. And she did a decent job. But everybody else was legit, and it was good. It was a good story, really heartwarming, nice, really nice, feel-good Christmas story with that cast.
Okay, then one last Christmas shout out. This isn't an endorsement necessarily, because I thought Eddie Murphy's performance was pretty phoned in. But as far as new Christmas movies, because sometimes I feel like you get stuck in the ones you love, right?
Yep.
I appreciated Candy Cane Lane.
I did too.
I thought that they tried to do something new with the story that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah,
And,
I thought it was good. I thought it was, Mom and I enjoyed it.
and I really, I don't think it's like a classic, but it's nice when people like push the story in a different direction, and I appreciated it. So
Yeah, I would say, I'd agree with that.
it's the kind
I
of,
did not have a food moment this week, but I'm on my way to South Carolina. I usually have one in South Carolina.
I would think so. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I
for
guess
this
that's
week.
about it.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
All right, everybody, enjoy the big game tomorrow night. And next week we'll be talking playoffs.
Playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, playoffs.
All right, till next week.